Fresh off of his win at the PGA Championship, Xander Schauffele is 6th on the tour in strokes gained off the tee. So let's see what makes him such a good driver of the golf ball. Now here at address, nothing crazy, a very solid stance. And now if we go into the takeaway here, we'll go into shaft parallel. The first thing that I notice here at shaft parallel, there's three things. One, his club face is parallel with his spine. This shows that his club face is very square or neutral at this point in the swing. It's a good check for you in your swing, whether it be with your irons or your driver. Is your club face parallel with your spine angle at shaft parallel in the takeaway? It's something that I'm always looking at in my swing to make sure I'm not setting myself up for failure so early in the swing. The second thing is you'll see his backside is up against this line. We're going to monitor that throughout his entire swing. Over here, on the face-on angle, you can see that his hips started on this red line here, and they have not swayed behind it. A lot of amateurs will load too far onto their backside and stay on their backside too long. You can see Xander here is staying within that line even at this point in his takeaway. And you'll see over here with his arms, he's already creating a ton of width in his swing. The driver swing especially is a wide to narrow motion, wide on the takeaway and narrow on the downswing. Xander does this so well, and you'll see it at the top in his transition. He gives it time to gather from the wide takeaway and dropping it to the narrow on plane or under plane approach to the golf ball. Another thing I like at this point in Xander's swing is you notice his left arm is lined up towards his target where he was lined up at address. Often a lot of amateurs bring the club head back behind them too quickly, and you'll see their arm is making more of this angle to the right of the target. I always like, again, with my swing to make sure at this point, my left arm is pretty much in line with where I was aiming at address. Now, if we move to left arm parallel in the backswing, you can see his head is starting to drop from the top line where he started his swing. This is him starting to lower his center of mass so he can gather energy from the ground. And you can see over here, his right hip is already starting, his right and left hip are already starting to recenter towards his target. He's already getting off of his backside and moving his weight into his front side at this point in the swing. Again, a lot of amateurs stay on their backside too long. This is very difficult to do. I'm still working on it. It has taken me a long time to recenter earlier in my swing, but when I do, it helps my timing tremendously. Now let's move up to the top of the swing, right about here. He is fully into his front side. Right there, you can see here, he just got into his front side here. Shaft is just about parallel with the ground. That recentering of his hips, getting into his front side early. Take a look at your swing. Something that I struggled with as I started in my professional long drive career was my hands were already down here and the shaft at a 45-degree angle by the time I got into my front side, which means my sequencing, my timing is off. You can see Xander's full well into his front side, and he has not started his downswing yet. Two other things over here. People always notice his bowed left wrist. A lot of people do it. Brooks Koepka. It certainly helps him maintain a stable club face all the way through the downswing and into impact. Not necessary. Plenty of successful golfers out there that don't do this with their left wrist. Take a look at Shane Lowry, Jake Knapp. They are great drivers of the golf ball, but certainly do not have a bowed left wrist. But Xander, it certainly works well with his swing, and you're going to see into the downswing how this kind of plays into his cut. He likes to play a cut, and we're going to see how this plays into his cut at impact. The other thing you'll see, look how much his head has dropped. His head has not moved towards the target, but it has dropped from where he started at address. Again, this is him gathering energy from the ground, lowering his center of mass into the ground so he can recruit his legs to deliver efficient club speed, and he's not swinging with his arms, he's swinging with his legs and his torso. And over here you can see his right hip is full well away from his starting line, and he has moved his hips towards the target. And you see, if you draw a line here tracing his spine, it is slightly tilted away from the target. With a driver, this is what you want. If his head had moved over here and his spine angle looked more like this, he's going to then have to recover all the way in his downswing to try to swing a degree or two up on the golf ball. But having that spine tilt slightly away from the target is going to really make it easy for him to be consistent in ball striking and help him swing up on the ball with his driver. Again, this is driver specific, swinging up on the ball a couple of degrees versus irons, you're swinging down at the ball 4, 5, 6 degrees. Now as we start the downswing, again, watch how his lower half starts the downswing, but his shoulders stay closed. Right here, his shoulders are basically 90 degrees, but his hips are starting to open, which leaves him using his hips and then his shoulders to deliver his hands. That's how he's able to keep his shaft on or under plane, because as his hips start and his shoulders stay closed, what his hands are doing is they're dropping slightly, getting under plane, so then he can deliver the club head under plane with an in to out swing or down the line. He's not throwing the club over top. If you struggle with an over the top move, take a look at the timing between when your hips start the downswing and your shoulders start the downswing. If your shoulders open too early, that's going to cause your hands to come out over plane, and then all of a sudden you're steep swinging over top of the golf ball. Now, one thing you'll notice as he approaches the golf ball here, look at how much his head has dropped from the golf ball, but what his head has not done, it has not moved towards the target. It has actually moved away from the target. Again, promoting this spine tilt away from the golf ball with your driver that helps you hit up on the golf ball. This is a really, really good move. It helps with accuracy and speed. The club head is kind of like a whip, and when your head moves away from the target, as the club head moves towards the target, it is an efficient and easy way to deliver the club head with significant amount of club head speed, which is going to relate to ball speed and distance. Take a look at your head in your swing. Is your head moving towards the target? If it is, it's a relatively easy fix to increase your club speed and distance once you get that head and your upper body moving away from the target as you move into impact of the golf ball. Now, we talked about the cut that Xander likes to play, and you can see right at impact here, he has moved off of this starting line slightly. You'll see other guys, especially guys that like to draw the golf ball, that hip will be up against this line or maybe even on this side of it. The fact that his hip has moved ever so slightly towards the golf ball, you can see that contact is slightly up on the heel, and this is going to be a nice little cut here. This is a very typical move of somebody that likes to cut the golf ball. They get just a little bit into the golf ball, and that causes that swing path to be down the line with maybe a slightly open face to give them the cut, rather than if that hip was up against this line, it's going to promote more of a maybe 2 degree into out swing, which leads to more of a draw. The other thing you'll notice here on the right is look how much forward press his hands have almost at impact here. A lot of people think that driver hitting up on the ball, you're scooping the ball and your hands are behind the club head, which helps the ball launch into the air higher. You use the launch or the attack angle of, let's say, 2 degrees up, combined with the loft of the driver of, let's say, 9 degrees to deliver a dynamic loft of, let's say, 12 degrees. That's what gets the ball up in the air. Hitting up on the ball literally isn't keeping your hands behind the club head, causing your club head to swing up at the golf ball. It's done with this spine tilt here and your head staying behind the golf ball while your hands move up into impact. That's giving you the angle of attack of 2 degrees up, for example, but the hands being forward pressed here keeps his flight controlled and helps with accuracy. If his hands were further back here, that club head would be most of the time wide open, dynamic loft would be way too high, 16, 17, 18 degrees. The ball would go way too high, it'd be tough to control accuracy wise. And if you move over to the left here, you can see that ball started right down the middle and you can see it start cutting to the right slightly. Now, because it's a beautiful swing, let's just take a quick look at it in slow motion with no pauses, and let me know what your favorite move is here from Xander and why you like his driver swing so much.